I've been sitting on this video for a while now. The idea, of course, being that I'm starting to feel that Rob Manfred is starting to take place as the new worst commissioner in sports. And I get it. Roger Goodell has had tons of controversies. The NFL has had to go through lots of stuff that it probably should never have had to go through. And I understand that completely. You know, he's booed every year at the draft for a reason. Also, you have Gary Bettman in the NHL. And trust me, he'll be worth a video soon, about, how he's mishandled a lot of the scandals, most recently the Blackhawks one, which I covered on this channel, how he gets booed by the fans every year when he hands the Stanley Cup, regardless of whoever wins the cup. But in my opinion, Manfred has slowly but surely been going to claim the title as the new worst commissioner in sports. And you need to look no further than this recent work stoppage in the MLB. This is bad for baseball. Today was their last day to reach a resolution, and now it looks like they will not be able to go their opening day on March 31st as planned, so it looks like, and it will be probably further than that. We're probably going to get a shortened season. I wouldn't be surprised if the whole first month of the season gets kind of canned. Every day that this isn't resolved, that's another game pushed back. And here we are. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. Why are you talking about baseball? Baseball isn't a real sport. It's just boring and blah, 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 blah. I get that. I love baseball. Okay? I love baseball. Baseball games, going to games in the summer, is kind of a lifetime tradition for me. I love going to ballparks. I love going to games. The smell of the popcorn, all the beer around the ballpark, getting some good food, watching a nice game on a crisp summer night. I love baseball. Even as a Rockies fan who's had to live with a terrible baseball team for the majority of his life. And trust me, I'll be talking about the Rockies soon. But even as someone who's been a fan of a terrible baseball team, I love the sport. And I think Rob Manfred is killing the MLB. The MLB should not be in this dire situation. They should not have to scrounge for these fans and just kind of hope that the TV ratings carry everything. And here we are. Rob Manfred, if you ask me, is killing the MLB. And you can look at 3 recent scandals as to, well, I could say 4 really, as to why the MLB has kind of been falling ever since Manfred's leadership. Now, I'm not acting like Bud Selig was perfect, but it has gotten worse under Manfred. The first thing we need to look at is, in my opinion, the Houston Astros scandal. That sign-stealing scandal was massive. It was a huge taint on baseball. And it was a massive misfire for the MLB. The Astros blatantly stole signs. They cheated during the regular season and, of course, during the postseason. And it was massive how they did it. Because they essentially cheated their way to 2 World Series appearances and a ring. They did. I don't want to hear Astros fans, any defenses, no. Now, do I believe they needed to cheat? No, I think they were a very good team, and I think they were legitimately probably the best team in baseball over that span, and they've continued to be a good team. But still, they cheated their way to 2 World Series appearances, and they cheated their way to a ring, in my eyes. And how did Rob Manfred handle it? It's just a piece of metal. It's not that big a deal. Just scrape over it. It'll be fine. A piece of metal? Really? How about you ask all those players that lost a World Series? Players who've never even seen the World Series. Players who, it was a miracle if their team just got into the playoffs. What if you were to ask all the teams that have won the World Series, all those Hall of Famers with rings on their fingers? Why don't you ask the people who were part of the Yankees dynasty? Ask Derek Jeter. Ask someone like Todd Helton, who never won a World Series, and the only time he ever went, they got swept. Bet you they would have loved to be next to that piece of metal, huh? I bet you that piece of metal would have meant the world to that '07 Rockies team. I bet you that piece of metal was pretty significant to the Yankees team during the 2000s. You know how Red Sox fans waited 86 years for a title? Think that piece of metal meant a lot to them, Rob? What about Cubs fans? Waited over a century for their title. think that was just a piece of metal to them? You are the commissioner of baseball. You are the face of an entire corporation, America's pastime. And you refer to one of the most cherished things, the most cherished thing to any baseball player that they've spent years, blood, sweat, and tears for, as just a piece of metal? What the hell, Rob? I thought you were supposed to be a champion for the game. Look at how he treated the Astros scandal. He did everything he could, just being so quiet and hoping that it would go away. Because that World Series, to be fair, was pretty freaking epic. We had some pretty awesome games. Game 5 in particular. That awesome 14-13 shootout that ended in an extra innings with that walk-off. Now that we know that Houston was probably cheating the whole time, that World Series is tainted in their eyes. Baseball just wants this to go away. They didn't want to talk about this, but unfortunately here it is. Even though Houston has made 2 World Series appearances since then, and they almost won twice, and the fact that, yeah, Houston has made 3 ALCS appearances, won 2 of them, that's still all anybody talks about, and Manfred was so tone deaf, acting like it was nothing. It's one of the worst scandals in the league's history. And here's the commissioner of baseball just hoping that it goes away. Kind of like with Roger Goodell and the whole, Ray Rice thing. I'm not saying it was as bad as that. Domestic violence is obviously 1,000 times worse than hitting a trash can, but still. Just being quiet, hoping it'll go away, and then handing out some petty fines. Just suspending them for a year. And then they're fired. Not by baseball, but by Houston. And now they're all they all have jobs again. They're back in the league. AJ Hinch, the manager of that team, he's now in Detroit. And now Manfred's just kind of hoping that never happens again. Like, cheating happens all the time. There's the whole, and that's another can of worms, the whole, steroid thing, like Barry Bonds on the Hall of Fame, the fact that he's rarely been discussed. And like how the MLB kind of always bends the rules on who gets in and who doesn't. Like, their Hall of Fame criteria is so freaking weird. That's another thing for another time. But one of the worst scandals in the history of your sport, and you do nothing about it, till you're practically forced, and even then it's just basically a slap on the wrist, a few petty fines, lose some draft picks. Clearly didn't do anything to Houston. They're still winning games. They still have a lot of prospects coming through. They're pretty much generating new ball players out of an assembly line. But the message wasn't sent, Rob. I guarantee you someone's going to try this again. Someone will find a more discreet way. Maybe they'll do the electronic buzzer thing that Houston tried. Maybe they'll find a more discreet way to cheat signals. Because the message was not sent. Your job is not just to preserve the integrity of your game, but to send a clear message on what will happen if you dare violate the rules. Now we'll just lose some cash, maybe a draft pick or 2. Houston's going to be fine. I wouldn't be surprised if baseball's played this upcoming year. I wouldn't be surprised if Houston won the West again. I wouldn't be surprised if Houston's back in the ALCS because they're that loaded. I'm not saying that Manfred needed to force them to tear everything down and just be a terrible team, but be more harsh, man. Don't just act like it's nothing. Do you think LA felt that way? Think New York feels that way? The teams that lost to Houston? Guarantee you they don't feel that way. This isn't the first time scandals ever hit the MLB, and it won't be the last. And if anything I've seen so far from Rob Manfred, he doesn't know how to handle punishments. You thought Goodell was bad? Manfred's probably going to one-up it. The second thing to look at is the recent rule changes around the MLB when it comes to things like their playoff seeding, the extra inning rule, spider tack, the whole thing around that last year. In my opinion, yes, I get it. You're trying to speed up the game and make it to more casual viewers. There are ways to do that. This is not the way to do it. Now, 7-inning doubleheaders. I think that's a good idea. I like that personally. But the extra innings runner... Really? It's supposed to speed up the game. I watched an extra innings game last year that went into 15 innings. Despite having the runner on base, nothing was done about that. There are easy ways to cheese this system, and teams, either for some reason of these unwritten rules, which are stupid in their own right, they're not utilizing the easy way to beat the system, and either that or they just can't. These games are still lasting another hour or two, Rob. This rule changes nothing. This rule still makes it a grind. The rules have done nothing to enhance the game. They're cheap gimmicks that have little to no impact on the game. They make it feel more like some weird, cheap Little League version of MLB rather than actual professional baseball. And they kind of cheapen the integrity. Thank God they didn't enhance it for the postseason and they just went with normal baseball. But this extra innings rule needs to die, like immediately. Also, they have some good ideas that they then scrap the following year. Like the idea of making the wild card round an actual 3-game, best out of 3-game series and just the one game. I like that personally because I think the wild card game is just a glorified regular season game. I get it. There's some tension, win or go home. I understand that, but we've had games 163 and then we get the wild card game when the wild card game is essentially just game 163. I like the idea personally of a best out of 3 series. Like the NBA kind of does something like that. Like they have that playing round, and I get it. And I think the playing round is kind of stupid too. See what I'm getting at here? Like I prefer a best out of 3 series, and I think that was a great idea. Then they scrap that, go back to normal stuff, but they leave in the extra seeding, which doesn't do anything. In fact, it just lets some crappy teams to get beat up by higher seeds. The spider tech. Oh my God, the spider tech. I get it. It allows some insane spin rates on the ball. It allows pitchers to kind of contort the pitches in different ways. The angles are different. And it made things damn near impossible for hitters to hit through the first couple months of the year. We saw like insane amount of no-hitters. Cleveland was no-hit twice last year. The Padres got no-hit by a rookie pitcher from Arizona in his first ever Major League start. The same Arizona team that went 5-40 during the summer. Like... It's absurd. Like, I get it. You want to eliminate the idea that the pitchers are just dominating the game. I get it. You want more home runs. You want more big-time plays. I understand that. But the fact that they were checking almost every half inning, even when a pitcher had been proven he wasn't using spider tech, they were just double-checking, it got absurd to the point. And it didn't really even help then either. Yeah, the offense has kind of picked it up a little bit, but we still saw an absurd amount of no-hitters. No perfect games, though, but we saw an absurd amount of no-hitters. We saw the 7-inning doubleheaders even get no-hitters. It was kind of stupid. The rule they tried to enhance to cut down on the thing that was hurting the offense ended up making the issue worse. This is what Rob Manfred can't understand. He enacts these new rules, and yet the rules do nothing to change the game. They actually kind of make it worse. They take an already existing issue and they make it worse. I get this is not just solely on him. Like I get that there are other people that have to make these rules, but he's the one that it says he gives it the yes or the no. I get it. There's like a board and everything, but Manfred could easily veto these situations. He easily could. And now here we are. We have these stupid rules that are probably not going away, even though they do nothing for the game of baseball. I don't want baseball to seem like this refined gentleman's club that you casuals just cannot understand. I'm not saying that's what baseball has to be. Of course, I get it. You want to appeal to casual fans. The NFL has made a killing off of that. The NBA has made a killing off of it. But there are ways to appeal to casual fans without dumbing down the game, which is exactly what Manfred is doing. I don't know what these are gimmicks that do nothing for the game, and they kind of undercut the hard work of these guys. Baseball should be decided based on the hard work of the players on the field, not these cheap, inane gimmicks that undercut that. Now, I don't think they're done. I guarantee you in the next few years, we will see another rule change revisit. It's absurd, but we're not even done with this isn't even the worst of it yet. Let's talk about the abuses in the minor league system. And you need to look no further than last year when the horror stories that were revealed out of the Angels minor league organization. Now, I know that's more on Artie Moreno and the Los Angeles Angels, but this isn't the first time we've heard of the abuses of the minor league system. Do you know the average salary of your minor league player? Let's talk about the career minor leaguers that just kind of bounce around from AAA to AA teams that rarely ever see the big light of the bigs. The minor league teams are horrifically treated. During this lockout negotiation, Manfred's suggestion to make everything okay was just to contract more minor league teams and cut salary on minor league players. Do you want your sport to lose one of the main things that makes it competitive? A lot of teams are thriving because of their farm system. So many great international players who probably wouldn't have seen the light of the majors otherwise are now thriving in those systems. And your solution to fixing the widening gap between the players' union and the owners is just to cut more minor league teams? What the hell is that going to do? That's not going to do anything for baseball. That's just going to leave them in a more bad spot because, oh look, our farm system's now depleted. Have you noticed how farm systems have been continuously depleted, especially for smaller market teams, like say Pittsburgh, Oakland, the Angels, Milwaukee? Have you noticed how farm systems have been going lower and lower ever since the MLB just started contracting minor league teams? And I get it. They'll just blame the pandemic and say, well, it's because of the pandemic that we had to cut the... last time I checked, baseball is still back at full capacity now. You can go to games again. You can go buy merchandise again. You're allowed to go visit the ballpark. Why are we having these issues again? Why is Rob's main issue was just, well, we're just going to contract more minor league teams? The horror stories that came out of the Angels farm organization, players unable to freaking eat, sleeping in their cars, unable to treat injuries, suffering from things like insomnia, getting deathly sick because they can't even afford a decent hotel room. What are we doing? These guys are supposed to be the pipeline in which helps baseball grow. And you're treating them like garbage. I don't care if it's just minor league baseball. These guys have worked their ass off to get here. Blood, sweat, tears. They've worked off to get here. And you're just going to throw them to the side. What's your plan, Rob? How do you plan to replenish farm systems? So many teams need that system to compete. They need it to replenish their core. Teams like Oakland, Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, the Chicago White Sox, those teams need those minor league players that they've drafted and they can develop with efficiency to plug into their system as quick as they can. Because they can't afford the big spending like the big boys. And you're treating it like it's nothing. I hope more minor league teams don't get contracted. In fact, I hope that the minor league system continues to grow, or that independent baseball can step in and offer these guys another option. But as long as Rob Manfred keeps treating these guys like this, it's only going to get worse. Which leads us to our current situation. In my opinion, the best signal that Rob Manfred is killing the MLB. This most recent lockout. Literally, when you go to your players' union and you just basically say, well, we're out of ideas. When you say that with a straight face, that is a key sign you probably shouldn't have your job. You have no ideas to finally bridge this gap that's been widening for years. Now, I get it. The players' union is not faultless. They're partially to blame for this situation, and I could talk about that too in a different video. But good Lord, you basically just said, well, I got nothing. Then why are you here? If you have no idea on how to fix your own problem that you've created, why are you here, Rob? Why are you here? Remember that awkward opening video? Remember the 2020 season, opening day, the Nationals game, and you had that really awkward interview, that ominous lightning strike that kind of was fitting for Rob Manfred? And it just felt awkward and weird, him explaining the whole thing with the MLBPA, how botched that whole negotiation was, how they freaking couldn't even cave, how the PA and the MLB just kept throwing things at each other. Rather than finding a solution, they just blamed each other for the reason why baseball wasn't being played. We're getting it all over again. It's been a full year, and we're getting the same problem. The MLBPA is blaming the owners, and the owners are blaming the players' union, and they're both responsible, but the main guy in charge has no idea how to fix it. Why are you the commissioner of baseball if your one job is how to help the game of baseball grow and thrive? Fans are going to leave because of this. The MLB, I've seen tweets about people saying that the MLB could lose fans for life, and it makes me sad. I love baseball. I want baseball to thrive in the summer. I don't want baseball to just be seen as the thing between, what happens after the NBA and NHL playoffs and the NFL season to begin, or between training camp. Now, granted, I don't watch it too much near the end of the fall because my team is terrible and we're not in the playoffs that often. But for a team like, say, Tampa Bay, who has suffered from attendance issues despite being an incredible team, teams like Oakland, who've suffered attendance issues of their own, despite them being in playoff races year after year after year, you've got nothing to fix this. You're partially to blame here, Rob. You have every reason to get this fixed. And you're just basically sitting with your thumb up your ass. I don't know what your plan is, Manfred, but you're killing baseball. And the only way he gets out is if the owners vote him out. And I don't think that's happening anytime soon. Maybe it could. Maybe this lockout is just what we need for change. But as long as this man's in charge, baseball will never be what it could be. Baseball could be so much more. The MLB could be so much more. And here we are. I know that there's a lot of people to blame here, but to me the majority relies on Rob. This situation could have been avoided. This could have been avoided 3 or 4 years ago. It didn't have to get to this point. It didn't have to be this way. And here we are. They've lost tons of revenue, and they have no plan to help out. I don't blame the players' union for being pissed. I don't blame them for not wanting to play. I'm seeing tweets from players blaming the owners, and Manfred has no case for them. To me, I side with the players. I think they're right. Would you trust this guy to run a professional sports franchise? To run an enterprise? I don't think you would. Rob Manfred is killing the MLB. And until the owners realize that, or until Rob himself realizes that and realizes change needs to be made, this lockout isn't ending anytime soon. I will not be surprised if we don't get baseball till May. Maybe even beyond that. This is ugly. And it's getting worse. If you resolve this work stoppage maybe a month or two ago, or maybe if you just spent the last couple of years not letting things decay to this point, maybe we're not having this conversation. Say what you want about Roger Goodell, this would never happen. They had their own CBA issue, resolved immediately. Now granted, it's not exactly the fairest deal, but Goodell got it done. The NFL is thriving. Year after year, they break record viewer numbers. They bring in massive revenues. But even Gary Bettman in the NHL, they managed to avoid their problems. They have more labor peace. I don't think Adam Silver is a perfect commissioner either. I got to talk about him soon. But at least Adam Silver in the NBA, they don't have work stoppages. Now at least they still managed to pull in good numbers and good views. MLB isn't doing that. And a lot of it has to do with this guy. I don't know what it's going to take. And it saddens me as a fan of the sport that baseball's in this situation. Baseball will always have a place in my heart. And it's because of guys like this that we don't get to watch it. We should be talking about spring training right now. How we're literally just a month away from the season. 30 days. We should be. I don't even know when opening day is going to be played. If at all. We've seen baseball go through this 100 times. I don't know if it can survive another one. It saddens me, but that's reality. That's it for me. Please let me know your thoughts. Not the happiest note to end on, but welcome to reality. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hope we get baseball this year, guys, but it's not looking good. Anyways, that's it for me. See you guys later.